Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the third eagle of the apocalypse and the co-prophet of the end times. Recently, we have had a spate of horrific zombie attacks in which people cannibalize other people. In other words, they eat their flesh. And in fact, I warned about this more than 7 months ago when I did a series of programs on the messages which the Blessed Virgin Mary gave to mankind at La Salette, France. She refers to these zombie attacks in the end times, along with UFOs, for example. But I've been thinking lately, is it possible that these zombie attacks, these flesh-eating incidents, are a warning about the bear in Daniel chapter number 7? Remember, there are 4 great beasts which Daniel sees come up out of the sea in his amazing vision of the end times. The third beast we have already talked about many times, and that, of course, is the leopard. The leopard symbolizes Barack Obama and the United States. On this program, I want to take a look at the bear, the second beast, because that is the beast which is told to arise and devour much flesh. Daniel 7, verse number 5. And behold, another beast, like a bear, stood up on one side, and there were 3 ribs in the mouth thereof, and in the teeth. And they said thus to it, Arise, devour much flesh. Now, just as the third beast, which comes up out of the sea, that is the leopard, symbolizes Barack Obama and the United States, as I said before, this bear symbolizes Russia and one of the leaders of Russia. In this case, the Prime Minister, Dmitry Medvedev. It's extremely interesting to note that the name Medvedev means bear in Russian. But how do we know that these beasts symbolize both a kingdom and a king? The reason is because Daniel sees the beasts come up out of the sea, but the angel says they come up out of the earth. Daniel chapter 7, verse number 3. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, different one from another. In verse 17, these 4 great beasts are 4 kingdoms, which shall arise out of the earth. It should be noted here that the bear is the only one of these beasts which devours much flesh. I believe the reason is because this describes Russia winning World War III. And we see a very similar description in Jeremiah, where there is a very cruel nation which comes from the north. Jeremiah 50, verse 42. They are cruel and will not show mercy. Now this great nation from the north comes with many kings. These are the same as the 10 horns on the scarlet beast in Revelation. And they come against the daughter of Babylon. And in the end times, the king of Babylon is none other than Barack Obama. Incidentally, if you would like to read a description of Barack Obama's reaction to this surprise attack by Russia, read Jeremiah 50, verse number 42. And now let's go back and take another look at Daniel's description of this bear, because we need to find out who it is that orders this attack. And behold, another beast like a bear stood up on one side, and there were 3 ribs in the mouth thereof, and in the teeth thereof. Thus they said to it, Arise, devour much flesh. But who is they say? Now, the reason I believe Daniel does not identify who they are is because he has already done so back in chapter number 4. Remember when King Nebuchadnezzar has a dream of a great and beautiful tree which is cut down. That is also an end times prophecy. The great tree being cut down describes the end of Western civilization. And this is also what the bear devouring much flesh refers to. Therefore, I believe the they, in this case, are the same as the two who pronounced judgment on King Nebuchadnezzar's tree. And those two are a watcher and a holy one. Daniel 4, verse 13. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and a holy one came down from heaven. And if you have watched my other videos, you know the watcher and the holy one are the two great witnesses of the end times, and that is the prophets Enoch and Elijah. And so we see the reason Daniel does not identify they in this chapter number 7 is because he has already identified them back in chapter number 4. The watcher and the holy one who pronounce judgment on the great and beautiful tree of Western civilization and say, cut it down, which is a judgment from God, they are the same as the they in chapter number 7 who tell the bear to arise and devour much flesh. When I did my video suggesting that Enoch and Elijah have already returned to planet Earth, which by the way should not surprise us, most of us understand that the false prophet and the Antichrist are also operating behind the scenes already, I suggested then that Enoch may have returned to Korea, but I did not specify North or South Korea. Is it possible that Enoch has returned to North Korea? Don't forget, Korea is about as far away from Jerusalem as you can get. And Enoch's mission is to the far-off Gentiles. Could it be that the prophet Enoch is the one who will tell Vladimir Putin to attack Britain and the United States? One more indication that this bear symbolizes communist Russia is that it leans to one side. That refers to the political leftward leanings of Russia. And by the way, one of Satan's greatest delusions of these end times is the so-called collapse of the Soviet Union. Now let's take a look at Revelation chapter number 17, where we see the scarlet beast burning the whore of Babylon with fire in 1 hour. As I have said all along, this is also a description of World War III. Please notice that the scarlet beast also is involved with eating flesh. Revelation 17 verse 16, and shall eat her flesh, and shall burn her with fire. Now I want to consider the 3 ribs which are in the bear's mouth. Obviously, this is the flesh which the bear has been consuming. I am going to suggest that they represent the first 3 beasts which come up out of the sea. In other words, the lion, symbolizing Britain, the leopard, symbolizing America, but also the bear, symbolizing Russia. In other words, in World War III, all 3 of these superpowers are going to be destroyed. This is what Daniel is revealing to us. Now, he also says that they aren't destroyed, but their power is taken away. Also, I am going to suggest that these 3 ribs are the same as the 3 horns in Daniel chapter number 8. That would be the 2 horns on the ram and the single horn on the goat. Daniel 8 verse number 3. There stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns. Verse number 5. And the goat had 1 notable horn between his eyes. Almost exactly 4 years ago, I started posting videos on YouTube warning America that Barack Obama would be elected president and that he would be a man of war, not a man of peace. I have also explained the many places in Bible prophecy which describe World War III. Jeremiah 50, the ram versus the goat, the scarlet beast versus the whore of Babylon, the last king of the north versus the last king of the south, And here in Daniel chapter number 7, the bear devouring much flesh. And so, in conclusion, we are getting signs on an almost daily basis that these are indeed the end times. World War III has already begun, and it is very near to its climax, and that is when the bear devours much flesh. All of these bird, animal, and fish deaths, these I believe are also plagues from the two witnesses, Enoch and Elijah. And don't forget the waters turning to blood, and the weird noises, and now zombie cannibalism. I believe all these indicate the bear is about to devour much flesh. And as always, I offer a free copy of my book, Revelation Unraveled. If you would like a free copy, you can either write to the address you see on your screen, or leave a comment below this video and I will contact your channel.